Despite 8 Arab League countries agreeing to support a peaceful transition in Syria and the rebels that toppled the government promising to respect religious freedom, Christians in the country are still rightfully concerned.
Mr. Secretary, are you confident that the leader of HTS will be able to keep his word to protect Christians and Islamic women in Rump, Syria?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not confident. I'm encouraged by the fact that they've said the right thing, but what we have to focus on is whether they do the right thing, including protecting minorities.
Founder of the Kairos Company and President of Congress of Christian Leaders, Reverend Johnny Moore, and Senior Fellow and Director of the Center for Religious Freedom at the Hudson Institute, Nina Sherry, and they both join us now. Wow, I'm so happy to have both of you. This topic has been of deep concern to so many Christians around the world. I'll start with you, Nina. Before we talk about the state of Christians right now in that area, tell us why this matters to Christians, our heritage, the history of this community, and why we should be so deeply concerned about their safety beyond the humanitarian causes, just the historical, traditional part about that.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. This was the first community in the Bible, in the New Testament, that was identified as Christian. This was Damascus was the road that St. Paul was traveling when he had his conversion. It's it's really part of the Holy Land. And it's important that there be a living, ancient community with roots that go back 2,000 years, as these communities do. It really does, at this Christmas period, is especially poignant to us as Christians when we think about the origins of our faith and these people who have held and kept the faith and actually brought it to the West. You know, this wasn't a missionary church. This was a church that was missionized from the West. It was the other way around. Right. So it's extremely important to us.
Absolutely. Johnny, this community has been under so much strain. Already under the Obama administration, we saw their numbers dwindle. Assad provided some sort of protection for Christians. Now he's gone because these rebels that, let's be frank, our CIA, the Turkish government, Israel have all funded these rebels, and now they're in charge. So what do you think is going to happen to them? And do you believe these claims by the Islamists that they're going to provide protection for them?
By the way, in the video at the beginning of the segment, when you heard Secretary Blinken answer the question about Christians, and he didn't use the word Christian, he said minorities. And that's a policy decision that this administration has made, but the Obama administration made. That's why you had the Christian community in Syria go from 2 million people to under 500,000 people. And the fact of the matter is that these rebels, while Assad was pure evil, that doesn't mean that this government's going to be any better. And these rebels may not be ISIS, but they are Islamists, okay? And there isn't a single circumstance of an Islamist government making life better for Christians. In fact, you know, as the rebels are moving across Syria, you know, the leader of this group was issuing statements. He said, don't confiscate the properties, don't kill the Christians. And you know why he had to issue the statements? Because that would have happened had he not issued the statements. And the fact of the matter is that the Christians in Syria are terrified, and they're so terrified they won't say it out loud. And that's why it's so important that we do for them.
Oh, absolutely. We have to be their voice. Nina, Johnny talked about this very deliberate policy by the Obama administration, by the Biden administration, to not call these communities Christian communities, to call them minority communities. I want you to talk to me about why they did that, and then also what kind of hope you have now that we're coming into a Trump administration for these communities. Are they going to be in a better spot because Trump is in office?
Well, I think that they have demoted. I think that the Obama and Biden administrations have demoted religious freedom as a priority of our foreign policy. I think President Trump in his first term made this a priority policy through an executive order in 2020. I hope he renews that and reasserts it. But because they face an existential threat as a community.
Yeah, no question.
This is a terrorist group. This is a U.S. terrorist group that is now running the country.
Yeah, and we should know we funded it. Johnny, last word on this, because I know you have a lot to say about the difference between Obama and Biden versus Trump when it comes to protecting Christian communities.
And look, I mean, President Trump was and he will be the protector of persecuted Christians and all persecuted people, by the way, around the world. And he's right. You know, the United States government doesn't need to be meddling in Syria. We don't need a bunch, military intervention, any of these things. But if these rebels want to make the incoming president happy, or if they want to make him angry, touch one hair on one of those Christians in these cities, and if they really want to do something, they'll make the Christians of Syria at the heart of the future of Syria, and then maybe they'll prove us all wrong. We'll wait and see. But if they persecute Christians, they will have the ire of the United States government. That's the lesson of the first Trump administration. I believe it'll be the lesson of the second.
Wow, I hope that's true. Johnny and Nina, thanks so much for joining us. Very,
Thank you.
very interesting thoughts and words. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.